Hello, welcome to episode 2. I want to first off by saying thank you to everyone who has shown us support so far with the first episode and with following and all this stuff. We really do appreciate it. And yeah, and I also want to give a shout out to his name is Liuji on Tumblr. He is the one who designed our watermark for our channel. So if you are watching the video right now, you'll probably see in the corner like a watermark of like a thought bubble. That was Liuji. He designed it for us, and yeah, shout out to him and a huge thank you to him. Go support him. He's great. And yeah, that was just my little shout out. So I wanted to get out of the way. So I guess we could start off by saying, how you doing, Max?
I'm doing pretty well. Excited for episode two. Episode one, I thought went really well. It was really fun to record and have the conversation. So excited for the same thing for episode two. How about yourself? How are you?
I'm okay. I will preface by saying this. If I am a little like low energy this episode, I apologize in advance. It's been a week, so yeah. But other than that, I've been doing fine. So I'm excited to get into the discussion today.
Yeah, sure. There we go. And yeah, so I guess this discussion too is going to be I would say that really necessary in the sense of like getting this podcast in about what we're going to talk about today, which is equality, and being able to talk about that while still in Pride Month and kind of being able to recognize that, have a nice conversation about it, and yeah, just be able to just have a good talking point about it, and I think it's something we both support, of course, and we just want to. I don't know, just have a discussion about that today and kind of open up that dialogue. So. Yeah.
Cool.
Um, so I guess to start things off, I would say actually, okay, this is a really good like I guess starting point is when did you start recognizing like what do you remember like the age or the grade that you were in when you started recognizing the like I guess the necessity of equality and like the importance of all different things as far as like justice and just I don't know I guess just equality amongst people. You remember kind of like when that was like a realization as far as like I guess because and the reason I say realization is because I want to preface that too. A realization in the sense that honestly, I don't think kids initially have any like they don't have any like biases or any like thoughts about that are exclusionary to certain people or certain things like intentionally. And I think that we get to a certain age, like for me, I want to say, to be honest, it was probably like fifth grade or so that I started kind of really like realizing things and things really kind of started to, I think, click in my young and developing mind at the time. But yeah, I was just curious to you, like whenever you remember at least it kind of hitting home and finally like resonating in that about the just the topic of equality in general.
I would say around that same like age group as well, because at least for me, in the type of like environment that I grew up in, I noticed that like with specifically with like my family members, they would like make certain jokes or they would like say certain things that like I even knew back then that were like not okay, like racist and like just like ignorant overall. And so I think ever since then I've just known that like stuff like equality and like being inclusive and all that is like important and just also like at least in the area that I sort of grew up in, I was sort of like exposed to like all kinds of different types of people as well. And so I think having that exposure as a kid and growing up, I sort of just like knew from a young age that like the importance of equality and all that stuff. I didn't really like um I mean, I didn't really like start getting involved in like the conversation until I guess I got to like high school, like being being proactive and sort of like educating myself about certain things, and just like hearing other people's perspectives, and um yeah, so I would say like around the same age as you. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and I'll give even some background. So for me, like as far as like the inappropriate like jokes and thing, like in hindsight, of course, like looking back on it, some of the jokes and stuff like that, I was getting more of those around like friends at the time, like at that young age, I would say. But and also, I grew up in a family that is diverse to say the least. Like on my like on my mom's side, for instance, I have a lot of cousins where I'm like, as far as like if I took like my cousins for the most part, I would probably be the darkest one of them all. And so from a young age, to kind of having I don't know, just started. I naturally, I guess, like just kind of loved the people in general, right? Like I didn't have I guess, like the fact that people even saw differences in a negative light was just something that I don't know was weird for me. And to be honest, don't even think I fully like grasped. But there was, I remember my parents like sitting me aside and telling me like, because of your skin tone and stuff like that, because of your color, you're going to be treated differently in this world. There's going to be people who just don't like you, like just because. And I remember like hearing what they were saying, but because of the family I grew up in, because of some of the people that were most important to me, like like I was around my godmother's thumb, like as a kid, and she is Caucasian, and so like I don't know, I guess certain things didn't really hit home to me until I had those my own experiences of like profiling or my own encounters like that were the ones that were eye-opening to me, that really like, oh, okay, like this is what they've been preparing me for, and this is what they've kind of been talking about and alluding to this whole time. It just took a little bit for that to really like hit home for me, I think. But I- it's kind of like it's twofold. I think I'm I'm very grateful in the sense that I'm in the family that I'm in, because obviously I love them, but then also because I was able to see different perspectives, which allows me to relate in different groups. For instance, like the music that one side of my family might listen to, completely different from the other, or like however that may go. Or there's different people that influence me, so it allowed me to kind of, as I got older, I don't know, I guess fit in a lot of different places, I would say. But I will say that I am with you as far as like the proactively being in the conversation was probably high school for me as well. So much so, it was my, I want to say my junior year or senior year of high school. I was a part of the formation of an equality club, actually. That was, of course, representative of not only people of different, ethnic backgrounds and colors and different things like that, but also different orientations, identifications, all those. And I really loved that because it was a chance for one, it was a safe zone for people in our school. And obviously, my high school, even though I love my high school, obviously predominantly white and predominant, we're in the South. So,
Yeah.
naturally the views are what they are, right? And
Hmm.
so it was a safe space for, I feel like, for, kids to really be themselves in whatever capacity that may mean. And it was a place where we also did a lot of like educating. Like there was a lot of things that we talked about that, you know things that you just that sometimes things that we take for granted. And I think a lot of times in whenever it's like discussion of equality or race or like all different types of subjects, right, I think there's always a fear of people of not wanting to be wrong, right, or not wanting to mess up or anything like that. I love that space because it was an opportunity to be wrong and then be educated. And because sometimes you need that. You kind of need that to do the right thing, right? Like you won't know unless someone like corrects you, or that you have that kind of like, oh, okay, that aha moment of got you. Like I see where I was ignorant before, but we can't really be afraid of that, because I feel like that's the only way we can truly make progress. But yeah, about high school, started getting involved with different activism and different things because I, I kind of felt like not only was I at the time, because there was a rise of like BLM and different things like that. Not only was I fighting for those things, but I also felt like um, it, kind of like off of a famous MLK quote, but injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. And so if I'm fighting, I can't just fight for one cause, right? If I'm going to fight for causes, I need to fight for all types of causes and for all types of people. And so that's why that became important to me. And also, I had family members and friends that were really close to me that I felt like as much as I would see them do activism as far as like BLM and like in response to unfortunate situations of police brutality and things like that. So it was like, how can I let them support like my cause and then not be as just as supportive as theirs, and then understand theirs and grow an appreciation and then and a love for like their cause. So yeah, that was kind of the around the same time for me. And even I'm glad, I'm very happy with the space I'm in now, as far as like my knowledge of certain things, my awareness of different things in the world and stuff. But I will say that like in hindsight, I was just like, oh, like so disappointed in myself that I didn't learn some of these things earlier, to be honest. But that's the part of dialogue like this, like to be able to be kind of open with that. And again, important to suggest the fact that it is okay to be wrong, or it's okay to be ignorant on something. It's okay to, you know, to whatever, but it's a matter of making sure that we acknowledge those things and that we have this discussion, we have that dialogue. It's just important. It's important to be inclusive. It's important to, it's 2021. There's a lot of things that should have been handled and talked about and dealt with far beyond, like before now, but unfortunately they're not, and so we have to continue the discussions that we have. So
Yeah, and also it's I'm glad you brought up the statement that like people, well, I guess essentially like people are afraid of like people don't want to, I guess, like be wrong, like they don't want to, they're afraid of being wrong, but like, and people, and there's like a saying like, ignorance is bliss, but like it's really not.
yeah,
And like I heard this really dope quote. It was like people want to feel right more than they want to do right. And like
yeah,
it's crazy how true that is, cuz I think I, at least in my own experience, I dealt with family members who like they would say ignorant stuff, or like if I were to have a conversation with them about something, like I bring up, okay, like an example, I had a conversation with my, well, it was a conversation with me, my sister, and my mom, and we were talking about the topic of like do rags and like this, I don't know if it's like a trend, like girls now like wearing do rags, like if they have like short hair, like or if they have like the finger waves, whatever, they wear the do rags, and my mom was like, I don't understand that, like do it, like that's for boys, like I don't get that. And we were trying to explain to her like, no, like it's a piece of clothing, like anyone can wear it, like it's not just a boy thing or whatever. And just like little stuff like that, like these like because her justification was like, well, when I was growing up, we would always like associate stuff like that with boys, and so that's like, you know how I view it, and that's how I make sense of it. And I don't know, but just like having little conversations like that, and then even like you would see stuff on social media, like videos of like people like the Karens, like people like getting into arguments with people of color, saying whatever, or like the whole uh like the white people coming up to like, I don't know, the like some Hispanic person and being like, why are you speaking Spanish, like you're in America, like you need to speak whatever, stuff like that,
yeah.
and it's just like the whole, and then even when you call people out, they still somehow try to justify like the things that they were doing that was like wrong. And it's crazy how people can like, I don't know, it's just because I think also people sort of like, if we're thinking of like the word like having a discussion with someone, people, I feel like some people blur the lines between like trying to have a conversation about something with someone, and then they treat it as like you're arguing with them, that you're like
Complex,
attacking
yeah,
them,
yeah,
or like whatever. And it's like, no, like we're just talking. But again, because they don't want to be seen as wrong, they don't want to be seen as stupid or whatever,
Yeah.
it's like they treat it as a personal attack. So I'm
Yeah.
glad you brought that up because it's true. Like, yeah. But yeah, yeah. So sorry.
No, no, I'm with you. And speaking of like the on the like Karen point, right? The Karen videos. The one I saw recently was hilarious because this guy was just like he was just speaking like Spanish, like talking to like a friend of his that was standing next to him, and then this lady walked by and said, "You're in San Diego. You should speak English." And he's like, "Okay, just let me know how to say San Diego in English." Like and like that kind of like
Yeah.
just it's so crazy like the I don't know the ignorance I guess and the just I don't know and I know that like part of that stems from like I don't I don't know there's like a pride people have about like who they think they are I guess as far as like they think that they're just a social they I think they're a socially aware person regardless of them not being that or not they just they think that they're that they also have like a pride as far as like their country goes and things like that almost that overtly comes off as like racism right and just in how they project it sometimes and yeah I don't know I've never I've never understood that especially never understood that I guess with in the country that we live in because the thing that kind of makes America beautiful and makes it like an amazing place is the sense that there's so much diversity here. There's people from all types of backgrounds. In fact, no one is just naturally American, like regardless. Like they descend from something. There's not that you know, there's not just an American. It just doesn't really exist. And so it's always struck me as weird that there's that, especially because I'm someone who is um, prideful in the sense of like I love the place that I would live in and stuff like that. But at the same time, that doesn't mean I can't recognize the issues and the many issues that we have
Yeah.
going on in the world. It also doesn't mean that because I'm here that someone that comes from a different place that I'm better than or over or anything like that. That also I just something about that bugs me. It just because I don't know. I mean, in the obvious sense, like we're all people and we're all like from all different like backgrounds, all different creeds, colors, everything. So I never understood the idea that one person over another. In fact, I was actually writing something recently called "Naked" as a poem, and it was basically like in the poem kind of removing all the like things on my exterior and then revealing that under that we're literally all like the same and that's obviously there's like a I'm using creative words and turning it into again like an artistic like format but at the same time I don't know I guess just that we're all just people and I don't know you would think that if we were able to finally make that connection that a lot of the issues that we have as far as equality goes or lack thereof um, would I don't know would be more ironed out. I guess like you know we wouldn't have to deal with some of the things we deal with. But unfortunately, we're not. Yeah. It was actually I guess to take it in the direction of like for instance. Being that we are two young black individuals talking about obviously the issues of police brutality and just issues of just racism as far as people of color go. I was talking to a lady who's almost like another grandmother to me. She's an older family friend, and her name is Rosie. I was talking to her, and um, we had an interesting discussion because she was saying that she used to think that we had made a lot of progress, like around like the election of Barack Obama, thinking that we had just made a tremendous amount of progress in the world and everything. And a term that she ended up using was that within the last like 4 years, basically America took off its makeup, meaning like
Mm.
all the things that we had thought we had addressed and thought that we had made you know these tremendous strides with was really just like cover up and then we were able to take off and really see the division in the world the problems that still exist and just the I guess the hatred in some people I think like that came out in droves unfortunately and factors kind of allowed people to come out of their shell a little bit. Like they always had these thoughts. It was just that now they're more comfortable to say certain things and do certain things. Um, and she was just saying that I don't think that we've made progress. She's like, in fact, I think if things aren't, they might just be worse because at least before, she said, this is her exact wording. I thought it was really unique how she said this. She said, at least before in her time and her upbringing, her like life as a young person, at least they just wouldn't let us in the door. But now they let us in the door and let us like give us like a cat like basically a glass
Yeah.
ceiling. And I was
Yeah.
like I don't know, it's crazy how wise people can be and when things they say, because I was just like hadn't even thought of it like that, but then when she
Yeah.
said it I was like, wow, that's that's crazy. Because then it made like the world's most sense like when she said that. And she was saying that now, and also now, like, we always knew certain things were happening, right? We always knew that certain attacks were happening to people of color and things were happening in the world, but now we have camera footage of it and it's still happening. Like, and there's still, not even is it still happening, but there's deniability still. Like there's still people who argue that it's not that bad or it's not happening, or oh well
Yeah.
this, and the people that I guess are the scariest as far as that goes are the people that jump immediately to what that person should have done. Like, okay, in no scenario should someone have died in that instance, but the first thing people want to do is justify what they could have done and what they
Yeah.
like. And that there, I think, shows like a just an overall issue like that we
Yeah.
have to deal with. But definitely an interesting conversation because I walked away from it kind of thinking like, man, like she's right. And um, and the fact that we still have to protest in the street and march, essentially, still have to do all those things because there's still so many things. It's like, well, what you kind of just think to yourself, like, she's right. Like, what progress really have we made since her time, like, or like her, I guess, her heyday, or like I don't know. It just was. It was a I guess uncomfortable feeling to kind of sit with and trying to think that, man, like I don't know, maybe things are, it's like things are the same as they were. There's obviously been progress made as far as certain freedoms and certain treatment, but at the same time, overall, it's like instead of their, it's like people have gotten better at hiding their
Yeah. Yeah.
their like, issues with people or different things like that. So it was very eye opening
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah. I'm glad you actually brought up the conversation that you had with her and that she said that thing like they'll let us in the door, but yet they only give us so much, you know.
Yeah,
Because like I'm pretty sure I heard that same thing like somewhere else as well, so it reminded me of that. But it's still very true, and like I mean like even with conversations that I would have with like my mom, like she would tell me all the time, like, you know, always like remind me like of the fact that I am a black woman living in America and that I still have to like sort of like, play the game, like, follow the system of like the whole like code switching and like how I present myself to white people and all this stuff. And she'll share her experiences because she works in the medical field, so like she knows firsthand, like because I mean obviously racism still exists, and like the whole like people are just more like low key about it. It's like it's very true, and
right.
so it's just it's not crazy to think about, but like I mean it does sort of like prove the fact that like history does repeat itself, and it made me sort of think like, will there ever be a point where stuff like this doesn't exist or like we won't have to deal with this? And part of me feels like we may never reach that point completely, but there's another part of me that's like still hoping that, maybe not in our lifetime, but like
Yeah,
centuries from now, we'll get to a point where stuff like race just doesn't even matter in a sense. Like, not that like we don't acknowledge each other's skin tones or acknowledge each other's cultures or whatever, but like it wouldn't have to be like the defining factor of who we are. Like,
yeah,
in a sense, like, because I remember I was watching something, I was watching like a streamer or something, but he like raps, whatever. He was like, I want to be able to get to a place where people don't just see me as like a black rapper, but just a rapper. You know, like, why do you have to put black in front of it? Like,
Yeah,
so I don't know, just stuff like that. And yeah, I don't know. It is wild to think about because it's heavy. It is heavy and it's very complex. And I think yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess that could be like a topic for a whole nother episode, but like, yeah, it's wild.
yeah, no, and you hit on something too, like as far as you were talking about, hopefully like in the future, like in a different time, like race won't like matter, but not like in the sense of us not acknowledging it. I think that's really important, because I think it's time to talk about like a certain terminology that's been used like forever, and it's been used from the perspective of someone who is trying to say that they are like they like, respect, or love anyone regardless of color, that they're truly, I think they're truly most of the time saying it with a positive, like from a positive perspective, but it's not good, and it's something that actually needs to be retired. But the statement of I'm colorblind, or oh, I don't
Yeah,
see
yeah,
color, like that needs to go, because like
yes,
that's the whole point. We should acknowledge each other's differences. We should be appreciative of the fact that we're not the same, and like although our our exterior is different, we should celebrate that. It should be a good thing, but knowing at the end of the day that we are still all human beings and treat each other as such.
yeah,
I just think that that's a big thing. I'm with you. I definitely struggle with, and sometimes I'm frustrated by the fact that I feel like when you turn on the news and you see the same things over and over, like the same news header, the same situation of something happening, unarmed black person gets whatever, that like that, it does. I'm not gonna lie, this like especially like the summer of last year, that was tough. And I would say that I even went through a phase of, um, I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it, because I mean, I'm someone who deals with depression anyway, but it was I guess just another level of that, because it's almost like I'm prideful about my culture, how I like where I come from, the different
mhm,
things like, um, about that, that make me who I am. But at the same time, like it was, you can't help but like be impacted by the things you see, and it makes you feel like you're less valuable in the world when you see certain things over and over again. And so to like be, I guess, completely vulnerable, it definitely affected me to the point where creatively I felt like I had to say something, because I feel like through the tool of writing that I have, I'm able to I have a voice, right? And I have a talent that I'm able to use and to express and to talk about things. And so I definitely need to talk about them when they're affecting people that look like me. But at the same time, it was so frustrating and almost overbearing in the sadness I had overall, that I was just like, it's almost like I couldn't bring myself to write at first. I couldn't, um, bring myself to, just, I don't know, to have like a creative inspiration, for a little bit. And I don't know. I guess that just goes to show like the impact that those things can have. That, people think of them, I guess, as like, oh, like, like that only happened to that person in that circumstance because of X, Y, and Z, but not realizing that it has like um, like a butterfly effect on it. Just kind of spreads. It spreads like for all people of color, because when you see those things over and over again, you can't help but kind of just feel some type of way about it. And it definitely made me question, like, are we, like you said, are we ever going to get to a place where this doesn't happen and where people are all treated the same? And me personally, I feel like, I fear that, but at the same time, I try to remain as hopeful as possible.
yeah,
And I am I'm not willing to give up on that because I really truly care about the future, and I care about the future of, like, I hope to have children someday, and I don't want them to experience the same type of world even that I'm experiencing now. I want us to be able to, truly, and I think, I think last summer, as far as like the protesting part of things, I think we made strides in the sense of, I think we really did like push the envelope and make a statement. And that goes for equality across the board, by the way, not even just referring to BLM or anything like that, referring to all equality. I just felt like we made like giant strides as far as that goes. But it's like we can't let up. We can't have these gaps of where we're doing stuff and then nothing happens, and then another, say a person gets killed or something happens for us to then go. Like, we have to kind of consistently keep the fight going. But I was talking to someone recently too, where I was talking about a fear of getting older. And the reason is because I came across a video of a protest where, um, like, there was younger Black people, like our age. They were like participating in the protest, and then like on the outside of the protest were older Black people, like, in convincing the younger ones to not be out there and not do that because they're putting themselves in harm's way, or they're all these things. And I I kind of like said to myself, like, oh, goodness, like, I have a fear of getting older because I've noticed that I think that for some people, I think the willingness to fight, the willingness to, to be, to fight for change, or to, I think after a while, for some people, not for all, obviously, but I think for some, that I think their spirit kind of dies, like whenever they don't see that change, or when that change isn't happening and the same things are happening over and over, to the point where they just exist. Like, they just decide that the world is the world and just live in it. And I really am fearful of ever getting to that point. I don't personally think I will, just because I know myself and I'm stubborn. So I hope that I never get to that point. But I don't know. It's almost like fearful to think that, gosh, I would hate to have been impacted by the lack of change or the negative things that are happening so much that I eventually just, because, to be honest, that rebellion, that fight for justice, that all that stuff, those are things that make me who I am. Like, those are things I actually identify with, as who I am, like a fighter or a rebel or all these things. Like, and so if I lost that, effectively I'm losing myself, right? I'm losing part of what makes me me. And I don't know, it was that, I guess, like, that's just to be, I don't think that we don't, obviously, there's times where we don't talk about mental health at all in the Black community. I know that's a whole nother topic, but um, I guess that is opening up to, like, at least the psychology part of the, the things that happen in the world, that they're not just impacting us on the surface. Like, that actually did those things, like, made me just, I don't know, feel lesser, and kind of like started to affect the way I was thinking for a little bit. It was a really negative, like, thing. And all those worries that you have about different things, because if we're being frank, there is a fear of something like that happening to you. And I would say that for me, I'm someone who, I guess I'm less concerned about how that would affect myself. Like, if something happened to me, I guess I'm more concerned about how, like, that would affect my mom, for instance, right? And I
Mhm.
know that, like, for her too, like, I remember things just changed. Like, there was, so because we, like, where we lived and everything, there wasn't like a ton of things for me to worry about. I remember after, like, Trayvon's incident, like, after that happening, after his murder, right? Um, I remember that really affecting my mom, and obviously it affected me too, but it affected her more because she's raising a young African American male that this can happen to at any, like, that very situation can take place. Like, um, and I think it made me aware of, like, how, and I seeing her, like, tear up when certain things are on the news, or certain things, because I know that she is thinking, what if that were to happen to her only child? And so that part, like, it messes with me that my mom even has to have those concerns, and that I don't know, just seeing how like her like worry about different things, or like if I travel a lot, for instance, and so traveling like to different places throughout Kentucky and stuff like that, her worrying like about like where I'm like the different places I'm going and stuff like that, at different part like towns and stuff that are notorious for certain things. It's just I don't know. I feel more for her concern and stressful, and I'm sure you can relate to that as well. As probably the same exact scenario, but you know, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That last summer was really rough for me as well, like seeing everything going on in the news and all this stuff. I think that was like the first summer that I started like having heart palpitations. Like I couldn't even sleep at night cuz I just had like so much anxiety about everything going on. And like, so like my parents, they don't obviously don't live together, like they're divorced now, but I would still go and visit my dad. And
Mhm.
like, my dad, he's dark skinned, so like, anytime he would like leave the house, like 'cause sometimes he would leave the house like at night to like go to the store or gas station, whatever, and I would be like so nervous whenever he would leave, or like scared like something gonna happen or like whatever. But um I don't know, it's just like that sort of like fear, not necessarily that like something's gonna happen to me, but like something might happen to someone like my dad.
Yeah,
Or like, I even have like a little brother. He's only 5, but like, something happening to him. And like,
yeah,
yeah, it's a very real fear to have to like deal with that. And then even when you mentioned like, um you were talking about how like there are those individuals who maybe they've been like, fighting the fight for a long time, and eventually you start to see their spirit sort of like fade.
yeah,
um I feel like, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I sort of experienced a similar feeling like that recently. And I think it was just more so like that exhaustion from seeing the same sort of news stories over and over again. And like, um just someone, I guess, like as someone who is like very sensitive in general, like highly sensitive, I if I get like super overwhelmed like emotionally about something, it like causes me to sort of like not want to address a certain topic or issue, or not that I don't want to like, um I guess that we can also talk about like performative activism too, but like not sort of want to like, I guess, speak on it, or like, I don't know. It causes me to sort of like step back and like not want to necessarily like be a part of the fight in the moment, because it's like a lot for me to sort of like, I guess, internalize in that moment. And like, I would need to like get my thoughts together and sort of like figure out what it is that I want to say or like add or whatever. But I don't know. And it's also, I think, because because of also that like being exhausted and like feeling jaded in a sense,
yeah,
I sort of like, I've had moments where I've had like that mindset of like, I mean, I guess this is it. Like, I guess it's just the world that we're living in. I just got to get used to it. But like,
yeah.
I don't want to feel that way. Like,
Hmm.
obviously, I want things to change, but like, I guess it's just hard when the same shit just keeps happening over and over again. You're just like, well,
Yeah,
I mean, what's the point? So I don't know, but I totally get what you were saying.
yeah. No, it was. I get it. And I think that was part of like when I say that I was kind of affected, like almost in a depressive way. I want to say that that was part of it too. Is that there was like that kind of like that moment of just like I don't know, um, like you said, just being exhausted, kind of like of just everything happening. And two, like it was such a whirlwind. Like I remember Ahmaud Arbery situation that happened, and that happened on my birthday, and then obviously like in the summer we had the Floyd, and then we had um, uh, Brianna. And the thing is that I think that's the thing. So Breonna Taylor's hit home for reasons because so it was in the city that I'm from, the city that I was born in, the city that I love, and one that essentially is another home for me. And I guess that part of it just it really affected me, and it affected me. Um, I guess knowing like I don't currently live in Louisville, but there's so many people that I love and care for that live in Louisville or near Louisville, and uh, it just I don't know. It really bothered me, especially the way everything happened. It just um, I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it messed with me. It messed with me a lot. That yeah, it definitely kind of for a moment in time, it definitely challenged my will, I'll say, as far as different things go, as far as but at the same time, I just felt like kind of that I couldn't continue to go feel like that because essentially I kind of had the thought that that's what they want. Like the people who are essentially
Yeah.
against us, let's just be frank, they want us to feel that way. They want us to get to that point of having the lack of fight and stuff like that. That's where the place they want us to go. And so I felt like I was just playing into their hand a little bit, but it was hard because it's like it doesn't discredit the fact that I'm still feeling this way. I'm still having these emotions. So it was such a weird thing to have to deal with. And I feel like, to be honest, I don't think I could have that conversation truly and thoroughly with a person that doesn't know what that's like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's just some things that you kind of only can really discuss with people that have gone through it or that can relate to you in that sense. And it was just, yeah, it was hard, and it was hard during like the trial for the officer. I don't even want to give him the credit of saying his name. To be honest, I don't think he deserves it. But I think we all know who I'm talking about as far as the officer's trial of who ended up killing George Floyd. And I remember in the so that was one of those trials. Like every once in a while, there's a trial that happens that I feel like captures the world. Like everyone's paying attention to the results of everything. And I remember finally the verdict coming in of guilty on all counts. And I remember there was people celebrating, and I remember not celebrating, but I remember having like a relief, like a literal like thank you. Like I was so worried that that was going to go because we've seen it. We've seen so many examples of that, the justice not being served, essentially. And so I was so worried about that. And then I had that moment of relief and just like that deep breath of like, oh, like and that feeling. And I remember then I was checking Instagram like 30 minutes later, and I saw like and I kid you not, on my timeline, three new incidents of like police shootings, like brutality to people of color. And it was just like, then I was just kind of devastated in the sense that, like, okay, that happened, but the issues are still here. The underlying issues itself are still as prominent as ever, and that really didn't change anything. And it really hurt me. It really, I don't know, it was very tough. Um, but I will say that what gave me hope and what gave me promise was the fact that, again, just seeing and being a part of some, but like seeing like the protest in droves, like seeing people continue to to be out there, continue to like to be a part of the positive, and and seeing that, I don't know, like almost to the point of like um like forcing ourselves to be heard. And there was something about that that was beautiful. Like finally, just what, like just whatever. We're going to be heard. We're going to have our message. So we're going to have people of all like different, again, like all different ethnicities, all different orientations, identifications, all come together and fight for justice, just in general. And so seeing like different protests for all different types of things, I don't know, it just I draw inspiration from a lot of things, but I think seeing people continuing to stand up, and not only stand up for themselves, but stand up for the people that can no longer speak for themselves. Um, something about that was very inspiring to me, and it definitely gave me the motivation I needed to. And I remember like shortly afterwards writing a piece that was controversial to some, but something I wrote that was like complexity of complexion, and it got a lot of mixed response. I remember got some crazy responses. I have a Facebook page where I post some of my writing, and I remember like someone leaving a comment that was so crazy. Like it was so long, and it was them saying like they would want to see like my family like hanging from trees, like all types of things. Like it was intense, and I remember responding and like I think I said something as simple as like have a great day or something like that. Just because
Yeah.
the response that he's looking for is for me to respond, have this dramatic response to him, and then go back and forth with him. He wants that attention. I wasn't willing to give that, and um, what's funny is that same person, right? That same person under you can go and look at other things that I wrote, and they leave these comments of like because they're things that weren't addressing social issues at all. And he was leaving all these things that were like, oh, this is so beautiful, like, and sending stuff to like his family members and stuff like, look, like, and tagging them because look, this is you, like, this is so perfect. Da, da, da. And then it's funny that the one thing, like, and the thing about the poem is, it should only be offensive if you are a racist person, like, or someone that's
Yeah.
so kind of hilarious that that was like that, and it's not a secret on my page that I'm a person of color. Like you can see my face on it. So like, I don't know, just kind of funny though that that was like that is the response. And again, that in a way, I kind of look at that as a positive. And the reason, and I know that sounds crazy, but the reason is because I don't, I want people to be like, I want to know people. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I want to know, I don't want to, because I wouldn't want to be around someone in this whole time when they're comfortable with me or comfortable with the conversation, they're acting a certain way. But then the moment
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that, no, just be you. No, if we're if you've got these feelings or these thoughts or what have you, like I almost prefer the fact of people being outward with things like that, even though it was in his sense extremely dramatic and very heavy as far as like the things he was saying and stuff like that. But I've also in the last like few years learned to just kind of, I don't know, just not let things affect me. Like, because again, that's kind of giving them what they want. They want to say things that they think hold a certain power over us. And that goes for not just like black people or anything like that, but I think all people that identify with something or that are something that generates like a something like a generate something where they have to fight for their justice or fight for their. I think all people can realize, like, can recognize with that or relate to that in the sense that when people are like for some reason aggressively against you or they say all these things and stuff like that, like they're succeeding whenever it tears us down or whenever it like hurts us, like whenever they say these things we have to kind of, I don't know, if we have to try to not give them that. And it's so easy to say because obviously some things in some moments are just hard to put on like, oh, that didn't affect me or whatever. But I don't know, it's almost like if we cannot give them that, if we don't validate them in their response, then their words are meaningless and then they stop trying, kind of thing. But yeah, to I guess to follow up and switch to some, I guess, a brighter part of the conversation is that yeah, I just, as dark as things were and as bleak as things seemed for the longest time, it just I don't know, just seeing people continue the fight and seeing people continue the good fight and seeing, honestly, what did it too is that I saw a lot of friends of mine, a lot of people that I care about that aren't the same color as me, that don't look like me, um, out fighting also, and are so passionate about it because of them having people in their life that meant so much to them and they felt like they had to fight for. Like something about that was to me was just like, I don't know. It's like it gave me like a I guess like in a video game sense, like a new life. Like I felt like so my partner just came and like revived me or something. Like I just felt like, like I don't know. It was a beautiful thing to kind of see people. And then in like conversations with my friends, seeing them get just as that again that don't look like me, seeing them get just as frustrated about something that happens that I would be, or just as frustrated when any type of you know racism or something has. Like I remember I have a friend of mine named Keith that like he works like kind of basically like in construction essentially, and he saw like the mistreatment. He's and and he again doesn't look anything like is the opposite of me basically, and he saw like the basically the this older white gentleman like I shouldn't say gentleman, older white man, pestering this like black man that was working on the site. And I remember he like got frustrated about it, and he went and like confronted the older white guy about it, and was like basically telling him um look how like look how silly this is, and look how like why are you treating like this person like this, and like really like talk to him like that. And then followed up and told us like his friends about it in the group message. And I just remember like being like, I don't know, so like happy about that. Like the fact that it like we need more of that. Things to really challenge justice, right? And because we talked about like, will that fight ever end, or will that fight ever, to really truly challenge justice in life, it is going to take people who aren't going through certain things, certain injustices, or going through that mistreatment to also be in the fight, and also talk, and also use their voice to, to fight against the negative things that are plaguing other people. Because otherwise, the message just won't be as powerful. It's kind of like as many hands on deck as you can get, like, right? Like everybody kind of has to be, that can be, or that wants to be along for the ride, kind of has to be, to truly generate change in the world, and truly change and shift opinions. But at the same time, I feel good about things currently, because I also think in our generation and the generations that follow, you can just see the shift in in people. You can see the shift of, as far as people having like these views against people of color, of all shades, people of color, all different ethnic backgrounds. You can see the things changing. You can see the things changing with as far as the against the LGBTQ community. You can see the change happening. You can see and I like the fact too that that's so much more, that in general, right, is much more of an open conversation than it was prior. Like people are very much open. It's a celebration when someone comes out. It's not them
Yeah.
being like just people attacking them. It's not that. It's more of there's a support, and there's people that, I don't know. It's just I'm noticing a shift, at least with our generation and the younger generations, and I just think that in time that things will change. Like it'll be a very rare thing, I think, to be either just naturally like either a racist, or a sexist, or someone who's against like just any type of justice for other people, or just equal treatment, just respect of all people. I think that'll be a small group in time. I really do. I think that those ideals and that narrative is kind of dying out with older generations, because they're the ones that really were holding on to these things to begin with. And so I think just in our generation and beyond, I think just in us being ourselves, and just us living life and accepting who we are, and being proud of who we are, and speaking out about who we are, I think that I don't know. I just think that in time, everything will iron out as far as that goes. I know that was kind of a mouthful, but I don't know. That's just how I feel.
Yeah, yeah. I think also, I guess it just add on to that. The more people are comfortable with like, number one, accepting that they don't know everything about every issue, and that
Yeah,
they are willing to educate themselves on certain things, or like, also I guess in a sense like accepting the fact that, like, you are going to be ignorant about certain issues, or like certain things or whatever, and like it's okay as long as you are making the effort to like be better and to sort of like learn and then put those things that you are learning into practice, whether that's educating people within your own community or like if you see something happening, like speaking up and saying something or doing something about it and not just sort of like sitting to the sidelines. Like
Yeah.
I think the best thing for anyone that to do as far as like if you want to be like a good ally or whatever,
Mhm.
whether it's with like BLM or the LGBTQ plus community or whatever,
Mhm.
it's just educate yourself on like what you don't know
Yeah.
and just like also um if you do want to be a part of the conversation and you do want to contribute, knowing when to like listen and actually like pay attention to what people are saying instead of like trying to just like jam your own viewpoints into it and like
Yeah.
because my biggest pet peeve is like specifically with like BLM and like just black issues in a sense, even with like issues with like black women is like when I see white women or like non-black women of color sort of like so they sort of like use the phrase of like I don't know how to explain it, but like say we're talking about the discussion of I don't know, like trauma, like family trauma,
Mhm.
and someone would be like, I don't know if this is like a good example, but they'll be like, as a white woman, like in my own experience, I can tell you, blah blah blah, or like, I mean, in my household, whatever, blah blah blah. It's just like, or I don't know, like even when they're like, I mean, I don't really understand why, it's like on the topic of hair, right? We're talking about natural hair,
Mhm.
and you might hear, people saying the phrase of like, well, I don't understand why this is such a big deal to y'all. Like, it's just hair. Like, I don't get why, whatever. And it's like, obviously, you're not gonna understand because you're not like, you're not black. Like, you don't really understand like why hair is so important to black women and like why it's such a sensitive topic. But like, just little stuff like that I think it's more endearing when people just like know when to be quiet and to just listen. And
Yeah.
then, you can ask questions, but to just sort of like try to, like, I don't know, try to make the conversation about you in a sense, like, that's when it gets frustrating. And so, yeah, I think that's another big thing. Another positive is that, like, I feel like with this generation, a lot more people are sort of like making the effort to like educate
Mhm.
themselves on different topics and like educate others and just there's a lot more conversation about it too, not even with like black people but with like all races and like all different orientations, sexual orientations too, like
Yeah.
yeah, so I agree with you on that.
Yeah, and I think you hit on something so huge for me, at least for, and I think of it as a huge thing. And so, and this is something that is just definitely needs to be addressed. But basically, the I it needs to be a thing as far as like you said that when it's a topic that you're not directly impacted by, like just listen. Listening needs
Yeah,
to be like just huge, like in push because you're right. It is like it honestly when I have a conversation about like things that are like we'll say like matters that affect like black people or things like that, it is incredibly frustrating to be like cut off and then like someone to tell you, oh well, like I've even had someone like basically give me their like education that they've had in like in college and stuff like that. Remind you, this person is not color, but just like telling me that and then as if like because of that they know about certain things and it's like
yeah,
okay, but you can only know things to a limit like unless you're actually someone that is going through these injustices and these things. And so and it definitely is kind of irritating to have a conversation with someone who's not going through the same things but who wants to dominate that conversation. It is not
yeah,
a pleasant thing at all. So listening, I'd say I would second that and amplify that yeah, listening definitely needs to be because again, like, and the thing is like I may be able to talk about um like black issues, but I can't talk about like other things. I can't talk about like how like another race is affected by things. I can't talk
yeah,
about like how someone's different sexual orientation. Like I can't talk about all like those things. I have to again. I want to be an ally for all those things. And like you said, the best thing I can do is listen. The best thing I can do is just hear someone out, let them talk, and then understand because that's the thing. I feel like in the last the 4 years too, that's been one of the troubling things that happened in the world is that we've lost our ability to have a conversation. We've lost our ability to talk and have dialogue back and forth and realize that it's okay to not agree all the time, and it's okay to not understand but then get informed. It's okay to just talk and communicate, and if we don't have that, we'll never get past anything. We'll never truly understand each other, and we'll never truly get to a positive place in life if we're continuously just ignoring the conversation because it's uncomfortable, or like just kind of not having the like certain talks and dialogues and things like that. And so that was another thing. I'm glad that we're doing this topic just to highlight that like it's okay to have the conversation. It's okay to I remember in the summer, speaking of, there's a person that I went to high school with, but I didn't know them that well in high school. And they messaged me because they saw something I wrote and they actually really liked what I wrote. But then they were telling me that they wanted to talk about these things because they come from a family that is not like that is very unfortunately very racist in the sense of like
Mhm.
their thinking and stuff like that. Like openly use the N word to describe people I think it was Malcolm X specifically was the example, but other like black leaders as well. Um, and um, they just wanted to have a conversation. And again, obviously me and this person could not have any like more things like that were different about us, but it was so crazy because we talked and we had like this great conversation, and we talked about even like at the end of the conversation, we not only do we address all these things, but at the end of the conversation we were talking about the different things that we had in common and the different things that we liked and that we both had interest in and stuff like that. And at the end of the conversation, I literally looked at her and I was like, I I know this sounds weird, but I wish we could have recorded that. Like just to like record it and like just send it off into the universe. Like these are two people that are nothing alike, but at the end of the conversation, not only did they both have an understanding of each other better, they not only did they did she was that person able to sympathize with the I guess the oppression and the things that people of color have had to deal with, but also I was able to kind of understand why people may have certain ignorances or why they may do certain things or why they might say things um, that are really kind of inappropriate when it comes to race and stuff like that, because to be honest they don't know better, like kind of like the colorblind thing or different things like that. um, we just it was a great conversation. It's like imagine if that's what we just did, because and I feel like if we had those conversations too, we'd realize that across everything, whether that is identification, race, sexual orientation, anything like that, I think we realize that we are much more similar than we give ourselves credit for. Like there's just things that we're bound to have in common, like bound to you know like for instance, like even as simple as like favorite color, right? There's only so many colors in the world, so bound to have favorite colors with someone who doesn't think the same way that you do. But then that could be like, and I don't want to generalize say that we're that simple that we would just love to talk about favorite colors, but that could be a thing that draws us together to talk and to open up a dialogue about all types of different things. um what's like one of my favorite pieces of art ever, and like and I really truly love it, and every once in a while on social media pages I have, I'll literally just repost it just because it just is that special to me. But and I don't know if you've seen this, but Joyner Lucas, like his I'm Not Racist video, mind blowing how like powerful that is, just because it's like I don't know, like there's the obviously like in the video, like there's open like racism and then like a response to that, and then there's like a dialogue of kind of like realizing that like the wrong, like how wrong certain things were, and then like at the end them both hugging and embracing like that. And the whole time of course Joyner is rapping over both parts and playing both roles, but it's just I love that because like exactly like that is just kind of highlighting how important dialogue is, especially in times like this, right? See, in times when there's a bunch of things happening, in times where there's a bunch of like social racial tension in the world, right? That's when we need to have the most dialogue. We don't like, and instead like especially on social media, and I'm sure you've seen the same thing. It's like it feels like high school in a sense where like it kind of
Yeah.
becomes like very clicked up, and then like one person, like if you agree with one person you can't agree with this other person, or you can't like it, so it creates this crazy division. Obviously social media has a huge impact on our social um, interaction, right? Like that's a huge part of it now is social media. And I don't know. It just is like we just have to find a way to find common ground. We have to find a way to have dialogue and conversation and be able to just talk through things. I think we'd find ourselves not only happier, but that we'd have so many issues just taken care of like so quickly if we were to just talk and see each other's point of view. Because at the end of the day, right? no one no one wants to be treated poorly. No one wants to be treated bad, and nobody wants to be talked down to, or threatened, or hurt or anything. Like nobody wants that. So okay, we have an understanding of that, so why put each other through that? Like instead, let's find things that we like, and find things that we have interest in, and find things that we all want to fix and all want to contribute to. And I just feel like with that we'd find love for each other, and that's like the biggest thing. And I think that's the beautiful thing about like Pride Month in a sense, is just like the embracing of being different, right? The embracing of being uh, just like having like the differences, and just loving yourself for that, loving others for that, and embracing the fact that there is that difference. Like I just sometimes I don't know, I just wish that we could have that kind of unity for like so many things, and have that unity consistently, and have it like as the majority, and it not just be, I don't know. It's just there's so much. I wish we could just like snap and our fingers, and then it was kumbaya. Like everybody was just kind of singing and happy together. But I don't know. But I just like you said, like we both kind of talked about it. Really is. I just think that our generation is doing a good job with the good fight as far as justice, right? In general, like just equality, respect, um, kindness. I think we're doing a good job with that conversation. I think that will only increase with time, and I think that again, once certain generations go, I think the ideas of those generations, and the thoughts and the negative and hate speech of those generations will follow them. They will follow them to their end. And so then all that will be left is the new ideas that are much more progressive, much more inclusive of everyone. And I don't know, it'll just be nicer. We'll have a nicer place to live, and kids won't have to grow up and worry about certain things, and have certain concerns, and their parents won't have to have certain concerns. I just want to get to, I don't know, desperately just want to see like just big change like that, because there's so many things that we just should not even, they shouldn't have to be conversations, but they are. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think also like another big factor that plays into it, I feel like there's sort of a lack of like empathy going on
Yeah.
as well. And also like because I've seen people sort of like make this excuse of like, oh well, this issue doesn't really affect me directly, so why should I care? Or like why should I
Yeah.
even bother to like, whatever. And it's like that's kind of part of the problem as well. Cause like
Yeah.
just because it doesn't have anything to do with you specifically doesn't mean that it doesn't also like affect you in a way, because like at the end of the day, like we're talking about hate towards like a group of people
Yeah.
regardless of what that group is.
Yeah.
And even if you are not a part of that group that's being affected, and if you're not even the person that's attacking the group, if you're the person sitting on the sidelines, like the whole bystander effect also ties into
Yeah.
the this cycle of like we're not making any progress
Yeah.
whatsoever, because I yeah, I mean, it's just, and like I get it in a sense, like I get it, like you don't want, like there might be that fear of like looking stupid, or that fear of like, you know, feeling like, oh, I don't want to like come off as if I'm trying to, um, I don't know, be like, if we're talking about like white people who are saying this stuff, they might have this feeling of like, oh, I don't want to come off as like, trying to be like the white saint, the white knight, like coming in trying to save the day. But it's like, you're not, like, if you are choosing not to be that way, if you're genuinely like trying to understand and like trying to like help in the conversation and like help with the whole like just educating whatever, it's only
Mhm.
like trying to be like the white savior whatever when you are, you know doing too much, and like I don't know,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's like you're trying to like speak for the black community. That's a whole
Yeah.
nother thing. But
Yeah.
I don't know, I just wish that like more people again would be, comfortable with the fact that like they aren't, they may not be super educated on these topics, and like they want to. Because I feel like there are people out there who like genuinely do like want to sort of like help and like, you know, sort of like feel included in that conversation, but they just don't know where to start. And they may have all these questions that they want to ask, but they have that fear of like, oh, if I ask these questions, then, I'm going to get hit with like, well, why did you already know this? Or like, why,
Yeah.
whatever. And it's like, it's not, it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I do think that, um, I do have a lot of hope for like our generation, and then even like this newer generation that's gonna come in like after us. Like
Oh yeah.
as long as, people keep speaking up in a sense,
Yeah.
like eventually, something's gonna give. And so yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm right there with you. I think that I totally second the basically the words you shared about the bystander effect, because essentially, right, that's almost just as dangerous as being on the other side of things, right? Is just to kind of, oh well, not affecting me, just minding my business, then
Yeah. It's
like
like
that it doesn't
doesn't
help
work.
anything. Yeah, exactly. It just adds on to the problem. But yeah, no, and it also makes you can't be aware of things and then also be a bystander, right? So
Yeah. Like you can't be neutral.
exactly,
Especially with
yeah.
stuff like this. You can't play the neutral card with
Yeah,
this stuff. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, exactly. And so, and as far as like, and I also love the point that you brought up about like sometimes people like afraid to have like to talk about certain things or to ask questions or things like that. I am not obviously the spokesperson for the Black community, but I would say that
yeah.
more often than not, if you approached a Black person, they could tell that you were actually genuine and like wanting to like help and wanting to learn and wanting to. They're not going to take that as offensive. Like that's not
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
be offensive to them. What's going to be offensive to them is if you ask them something with one and they can tell that you're not there's not genuineness there, or then you kind of like cut them off or like or don't let them answer and stuff like that will be like what's called thought of like as disrespect and things like that. But if you just ask, like for I can speak for myself when saying that I will have the conversation and dialogue about things with anybody that genuinely wants to know and anyone that genuinely cares about the topics and wants to talk about them. That is not an issue to me at all. Like sometimes I don't like the idea of like telling people like, oh, like I shouldn't have to inform that person, they should educate themselves, or that person shouldn't have to like. Sometimes I don't like
Yeah.
that because I think
Yeah.
it I think it naturally puts people off, and then they naturally then fall into that bystander role where like, okay,
Yeah.
well,
And like I mean like I get it, cuz like in a sense in a sense like I guess, if we're like from, say, like from me, like a black woman's perspective, I don't feel
yeah,
like it's sort of my responsibility to make sure that like
yeah,
why certain things aren't okay, whatever. But like at the same time, if you want to talk about something, or if you do have those questions, like at least for me, like you said, like I'm more than welcome to, like, you know, like tell you or like educate you or whatever, and it's not a big deal. So yeah, but yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
yeah.
yeah, and to be honest, as an overall theme, I think it's better when those conversations are had rather than them doing their own research at times. At times, I need to specify that, only
Yeah.
because you never know when something's being posted from a perspective that's not coming from an actual person who's African American or going through certain
Yeah.
things. So it's like you kind of have to, I don't know, like it's better for them to get it from true from the source rather than to formulate ideas from that may not even be from the Black perspective somewhere else. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess in a way it's like a safer thing, a safer bet to, talk to the people that talk to people that you know. And if you, and also the other thing is too, there's, I remember having a discussion with one of my friends named Corey, and I was having a discussion with him because I didn't know how he was telling me. So this was one of the like initial protests for Breonna Taylor that was happening in Louisville. And there was a thing that had started in the protest that was like the human shield thing, where like a bunch of like white people kind of got in front of that, and they were present. And he was going to be a part of that, like the locking arms and stuff like that. And I remember really appreciating the fact that he cared and that he wanted to be there. But then also, at the end of the day, you're also thinking like, that's my friend. I don't want something to happen to like my friend or something like that. But he said something that was very prolific in hindsight, in the sense that he said that I can't have like he was referring to me and saying like my best friend. I can't have people that I truly love and care about that are of color that are dealing with these things, and be their friend and have that close relationship and have that quote unquote love for them, and then not care about this or not go fight when it's something like this. And it was like I don't know, it just made me like, yeah, I mean, like, because
Yeah.
I knew that was right, but it was like the care for me on a friend level was like, oh, like almost overshadowing that. But then it was like, I need to let him like do, because that's so true, like it. And it kind of goes to what I was saying earlier about like the fight will only go so far if there's not people who aren't going through those things that are fighting also. And it kind of highlights that it's literally exactly that. And it to so I kind of agree with that point. I feel like you can't say that you're like those people can't be too close of friends if you're not willing to fight with them when it comes to, because what are we essentially protesting, right? What are we essentially fighting for? It's that we have the right to live. Like I,
Yeah.
the thing that some people get miscommunicated or they don't understand, which I don't know how they don't, but the thing about Black Lives Matter is it is not a blanket statement of Black Lives Matter, and that like other lives don't. Obviously, it's not that statement. It's
Yeah.
almost like that people would prefer it if it was BLMT, like Black Lives Matter too, or Black Lives Matter also. But that's what it means. That is what it means. Black Lives Matter is essentially the statement of, if all the, like, say all the houses on a neighbor, like on a street, like caught fire, right? Um, then all the houses except for this one house that was a different color got water, and all of them got like taken care of. And then the last house to get affected was that one, and they didn't even, like, they only halfway put out the fire. That is the premise of it. That's the premise, is that we're either always like the last thing and we're always dealing with mistreatment, unfortunately, and or we just don't get help at all, or the issues are semi-fixed and they allow us to continue to suffer. It's so there's so many different, that's a whole nother topic as far as all types of different injustices and social things that happen. But I guess the point is that we're fighting for our lives, and the fact that we're fighting for to be treated just like other people, other human beings. And so it is kind of disingenuous, if you think about it, for someone to either not be in line with BLM or not be aligned with at least the fight in general, but then also be a friend and also be a it's just, those things just don't mix. They just don't, it doesn't make sense. There's you can't be um you can't be like, I don't know, you kind of have to be both, I guess, because, or either you kind of have to be both, or it kind of comes off as that you're a friend of mine, like kind, like you're a friend of mine, kinda. You're a friend of mine. I care about you as my friend. I don't really care about you on a personal level. So like on a like true like human being level. So I don't know. So that's kind of how I feel about that. But yeah, no, just highlighting on everything that you said, because I think all that is very important to the discussion. It's important to highlight all those things just because I don't know. It's just we have to talk about these things, and we have to kind of make sure we include everything, right? And that's the good thing about having this platform of a podcast, to be able to talk about things like this, because I don't know, it's very necessary, just socially, to get anywhere as a group of people. Like, you know, it's so crazy. You think about the fact that we're spinning millions of miles per hour in the middle of the sky, like on a like basically a planet of like mostly water. Doesn't make any sense, right? We're all living these roller coaster rides of lives. We're all going through all these different things that affect us. We all have these different thoughts. We all like sometimes feel down on ourselves. Like we're all going through these things, and like you would think, and we're also only here for a limited time, and we never know when that time is. So you would think that, goodness, like the least we can do is like just care for one another, and like
Yeah.
love each other and accept everybody for whoever they are, and embrace that, and not just accept it, because we, again, like, and to use the word embrace again, like it should be an embracing thing. It should be like a good thing, that people are themselves and comfortable enough to be themselves, because it's just, I don't know, we should just care, and like we should just love. And I don't know, I guess that's kind of the premise, right? That's kind of the idea of equality in general, is just loving each other for just being human. Because it's hard enough, right? If we really think about it, all the things that we have to deal with in the world, all the things that happen, all the things that we all have to manage that are incredibly difficult, like on a like I don't know, we should just, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just human, just to love each other for being human and being here, and um, love each other for the while that we have all together, for the time that we have together, because at the end of the day, like, that's all we have is those moments, those interactions that we had together, those memories that we generate, like here, like those are all the only things we have. We don't all these like all the possessions that we have in the world, all those things, we don't take those things with us when we leave here. But our soul will forever be entwined with the people that we had true connections with here on earth. So yeah.
Yep. I think people can tend to forget that like this physical stuff, this physical shit that we're in, it's not real. It's
Yeah.
temporary. Cause like you said, like, and our time on this earth is so limited. Like, literally, I could die tomorrow. Like, my shit could be over like that, and none of this would have mattered. Okay, let's try this again.
For sure. Do you remember the thoughts you were kind of on last before we?
um, Honestly, I don't remember, but uh, I think we were talking about. Honestly, I don't remember. I'm gonna be honest.
I gotcha. I want to say that we were gonna. I think we were just kind of again like summarizing the um, importance of like we're only here for like so long, and we all go through human experiences which are complex, all having complex like things going on in our lives, issues that we have to deal with, all those things. And so, I mean, at the end of the day, like, just love people, just accept people for who they are, just embrace people for who they are, celebrate people for their differences, and yeah, just that being the kind of the idea of equality, right? The equality in general is kind of the point. And so
Yeah, yeah, and I guess just like, yeah, even what I was saying, like, this physical world that we're in, it's temporary, and like there is no promise of tomorrow coming, and like you just gotta just appreciate, the people that you have around you, and like just love each other. That's all I can really say. Just love each other and respect each other, and just like, yeah, don't be a jerk.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I'm right there with you. Second that motion. Yeah, I guess that's the really, like I said, like the whole point, right? That's just the point of not only this month, but also just equality in general for all people. You can't have equality some places and not have it others. I guess it's just another thing to kind of go along with is that this is the equality if for we have to think about it is it can't be a selfish thing. It can't just be for my issues. Yeah, we definitely want to support equality for BLM or for like it has to be inclusive. It has to be all
Yeah.
issues because we need each other. To be honest, we need everyone in on the fight. To really like change things and shift the culture and I don't know, just get past the point in society of ignorance or mistreatment or just blatant racism or blatant oppression just because someone is not like you. We just need to get away from that and really get to a healthy conversation about I don't know, like just being people, just being loving, caring, all that. So and I mean, I don't know. I guess that's really like all there is to say on that is, I guess it's kind of a beautiful ending to kind of end it in that way and talk about that because I don't know. I guess that's just the best, snapshot, I guess, of everything. So yeah.
So
Glad.
you wanna end it there? Do you have something else you want to share?
No, I guess yeah, like, I think I just want to, end up concluding it there. And just I'm happy that we did this episode, the timing of it, and also just because I don't know, it's one of those, that kind of the thing that we had talked about before this podcast, right? Is just being able to either talk about things that are not talked about as much, or be able to give different perspectives of conversations, and really be able to just, and I mean, nothing emphasizes that more than a conversation about equality. So I appreciate you for having this conversation with me, for us to be able to talk about this. And yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I feel likewise. And I guess I'll say, we appreciate anyone listening, and even taking the time to, whether you learned something from this conversation, or hearing this conversation just sort of like, you know, reminded you of like your own thoughts. If you have similar, viewpoints or whatever, thank you, I guess, for taking the time to, have this moment with us. And again, if you want to add to the conversation, don't be a stranger. Definitely, you can comment, and like, at least in our experience, we've had people reach out to us and like,
Yeah.
telling us that, that they liked the things that we were saying. So definitely, this is again a reminder, like, this is meant to be like Max said, like a conversation where anyone can join in and put in their viewpoints. We're just the ones starting the conversation. Like, you
Yeah.
can take it however you want to, and maybe create your own conversation. So yeah.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, I definitely want people to think of it as more of an open forum than a closed conversation for sure. And
yeah.
I guess as a shout out at the end is shout out to all those who are from different communities, like meaning that are either people of color from different ethnic backgrounds, people that have different orientation and have different identity than just like um, what would be, I guess, the standard of things, and just know that this podcast here and these two individuals that happen to host the podcast support you and are with you, and very glad that you're listening to this, watching this, however you are doing that, and that we're proud that you're choosing to listen to our videos, support our channel, because you are definitely a part of our community and you are appreciated.
And with that being said, thank you for listening, and we'll see y'all in the next episode. Bye.